I don't think, without any question, having done a lot of other people's podcasts, we have the nastiest intro. It's fantastic. The music, the whole thing. Yeah, they did a great job. Of course, CLNS, hat tip to you. The show brought to you by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. And Gametime, best tickets, best prices to get you in to see any event you want to see. Trust me, they are awesome. Both are awesome. Will Parkinson, my co-host here on All 32, he's awesome as well. We were both down in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. We're taping this on Saturday morning at about 11 o'clock. Yes, the game is later, but we saw what we needed to see and have impressions from all the positions, who stood out, who maybe didn't help themselves. Will, I guess first things first, shout out to Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, for the number of players they got in there, the access that we have. You're walking around the field. You're a big time guy. You're walking around the field because you happen to know this kid, Charlie Parkinson, who's an up and comer in the world of football, a GM one day, I think, right?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I could be his right hand man. I could be his stretch to Mike Vrabel. But just really top notch, a lot of great players. And I know some guys don't show up or guys leave early, but like this is the nature of the beast when there's that much money at stake and someone sort of solidifies who they are, already thinks that they're, there's no point in coming because they already know they're going very high. That's just something you have to deal with. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way of the world. What I thought we do, Will, is start with the one position that I think we could both agree is the best position at the Senior Bowl this year, and that's defensive line. And then from there, go position by position and pick a player that we each liked and tell you why we liked him and, maybe where he fits. So obviously, as I mentioned, defensive line, unbelievable. I looked at it and said, there's probably, Will, I don't know, 12 of those guys are getting drafted. It's that deep.
Yeah, it was insane. And I think there's at least three guys that'll go in round one, in my opinion: Mike Green, Walter Nolan, and then Shamar Stewart. I think those guys I'd be really shocked if all three. I mean, maybe Walter Nolan falls to the second round, maybe, but Shamar Stewart certainly is not. And Mike Green might go in the top 10. He had that good of a week. Obviously, was able to do enough to leave early. So did Shamar Stewart. And then obviously, unfortunately, Walter Nolan looked like he had a hamstring maybe on day 3. But generally speaking, that group was really good. I thought, even some of the other guys of, TJ Sanders out of South Carolina had a really nice week. And, there's a lot of dudes, Josiah Stewart and these. I think the biggest thing you take away from this defensive line group is this draft is, well, it maybe isn't the draft with 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, or, maybe it's not. I don't know if it'll be 2021 with like 8 All-Pro or 7 All-Pro, the Jamar, Sewell, Micah draft. It was 21, I think, right?
I think so.
Zach Wilson's, whatever the Zach Wilson Fields draft was, that draft was like everyone else in the top 12. It's been an All-Pro except the quarterbacks. Devontae Smith, maybe it's not that draft, but there's really good players in the top 10. And then this draft, I think players 20 through 60, it's kind of your own flavor, but there's a lot of depth at defensive line, specifically tight end, running back. It's a really good D-line, running back, and tight end class for sure. Just maybe not the quarterbacks, which I know is what we base draft classes off, which is so annoying. There's some really good players in this draft, regardless of whether it's, you're not getting Jaden Daniels, but you might get an 8-year starter at defensive tackle that you would have gotten last year.
Yeah, you mentioned those guys. Stewart is just an unbelievable athlete, 6'5", 281. He's got the go-go gadget arms. He's got the wings, the whole thing. And look, he's an interesting guy because his college tape at Texas A&M is really good, but 4.5 sacks in 3 years. It's like, that doesn't make any sense for someone that's this freaky. He's not a very good tackler, which I feel like that can be taught. I feel like, hey, dude, you're too big, you're too strong, you're too physical to not be good at that. But he had a couple plays in team where, blows by the LSU tackle he wasn't standing right there. That's the one where he stripped the ball out of the quarterback's hand. The ball's bouncing on the ground. He happened to be facing the scouts and the coaches because they're all on one side, the media's on the other, and he's beating his chest like, I'm him. using some colorful language like
I'm not coming back for day 3.
Yeah, that's it. Can I walk off now, because that should have showed you enough. And I think he clearly, to me, just based on traits, and I think we were talking about this earlier in the week. He's not going to get to. I mean, Trayvon Walker ended up going 1, but it's sort of a similar backstory where he's got everything that you want, but not necessarily the college production. He won't go 1, but if he goes in the top 15, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
No, me either. He's probably going to run 4.48, 4.49 at like 285 at the combine. And look, again, it'll be a risky pick. It is, right? If you take him, there's certainly some downside because it might not be special, but there's also a chance that it clicks and you're like, wow, we got a 12 sack a year guy that's Calais Campbell, Cam Jordan, JFM kind of guy in the league, where that bigger edge that is going to be really good against the run and really disruptive and get 8 to 10 sacks a year and just really good for a decade. Not even Clowney, where Clowney's kind of up and down, but a little bit in terms of Clowney's NFL production, where year by year he might have 2 sacks, he might have 9, but against the run, he's amazing and he's always near the quarterback. It's just did he finish that year? And look, Jadeveon Clowney every year gets a 1-year, $15 million contract every year. And so that's what he ends up being in the NFL. Not a bad thing to be.
Yeah, I just hope he likes football a little bit more than Jadeveon Clowney does.
Jadeveon Clowney, I'm not sure it's his number 1 priority.
No, he's fine on game day. It's the 6 days that lead up to game day that he doesn't really want to participate in. I had a couple other they're not day 1 picks, but I thought really helped themselves. Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle from Toledo. Toledo, of course, produced Quinyon Mitchell last year as a first-round pick. So just, there's good football players there. Just you don't look at Toledo and say, oh, I can't do it. He's a day 2 guy, in my opinion. I think he really hammered that home. He's someone that I think he can play some on the edge at 300 pounds, but I think he's a defensive tackle by trade. And I think his quickness and his length inside, and I think we saw it this week, he was too quick for some guards, and his motor was awesome this week too. Just constantly going. I thought he really stood out, and is someone that I don't know. I look at a place and we don't know exactly what the new Patriots regime, how they're going to sort of look at their defense, and if they're going to follow a similar path as Bill did. And obviously, Vrabel, had some of the Bill stuff in him, but he was one of those guys that bounce him around a little bit. He could be a guy. I also wanted to bring up, and where I wrote him up today for Boston Sports Journal, Tim Smith, defensive tackle, Alabama. Not a pass rusher. Probably a day 3 guy. Not even probably. He's a day 3 guy. But you know what? Run stuffer, plug a gap, that guy will do it. And there is a lot of value in having players like that, and this is to my point about how deep the draft is. He could start for some teams. He'll come off the field on 3rd down, obvious passing situations, but he could start, and he could start in year 1. And that's pretty impressive and sort of speaks to the overall depth of it. And I'll just give you one more that I wanted to talk about, an edge guy who I thought did awesome work. And he was actually named, they have a new award at the Senior Bowl where it's the best teammate.
Femi.
I want to make sure I get it's Femi Aladejo from UCLA. And his story is awesome in terms of his football story. He was a Mike linebacker at UCLA. And this past year, they put him at edge, and 6'2"-ish, 261 pounds. So it's not like he doesn't have these overwhelming traits out there. Just a good football player. You give him a little bit of daylight, he takes it. And he also, and I think this is one of the reasons why he won this award, he was leading guys. He was somebody play. He's coming off the sidelines when he's off the field, and he's giving him the chest bump or high five. He was bringing energy. And when you think about all the dogs and the alphas that are on the defensive line, and this guy turned out to be maybe the alpha of the alphas, even though, again, not the most talented of the bunch. I just think that speaks volumes to who he can be in the league. And I think just because he's only played edge for a year or two, to me, there's room for improvement there. He's not going to be a 12 sack guy. That's not who he's going to be. But I think he's probably a starter and a good piece on your team for health if he stays healthy for a good long time.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. He's built like an old school Ray Lewis type of like middle linebacker from the early 2000s at playing at 250, 260, taller, run stuffer type of guy, and like moved to edge and was really productive at edge and showed a lot, and showed enough that he's a guy who after 1 year of playing at edge is going to be drafted as an edge. So I thought he had a really nice week, and I thought there's just this group as a defensive line group, even when it was a shame not to see an Alfred Collins, some guys like that, bail at the last second, some bad agent advice. I would say, generally speaking, this group's really good, and a lot of these guys are going to play on Sundays for a very long time.
Yeah, and last, I just wanted to mention, you mentioned Green, and he was a first-round guy coming in, and he had the 2 days, and of course you've probably seen the rep by now where he goes right through Josh Connolly's chest. And
Connolly did win the next rep. I just want to.
He did. He absolutely, and we're going to talk about.
Whoever talks about the next rep.
No, we're going to talk about Connolly, or at least I'm going to talk about Connolly when we get there, when we start going through positions. But I think I heard Dane Brugler say, like, would you be totally shocked? And you said it, if he ends up as a top 10 pick. And I think with the edge that he plays and his flexibility and I don't know, that might have been crazy before we started the week, but now that you see it up close and personal, not so crazy anymore.
No, not so crazy anymore either. And there's a group of a few guys in this class, in my opinion, who are like, if you just go best football players, like, I don't know, most people, I'm sure Mike Green's somewhere between edge 2 and edge 4, I would assume, at this point behind Carter.
Yep.
I think it depends where you have Jalen Walker in terms of what do you think he is. Is he a linebacker? Is he an edge? Is he who is he? But Mike Green is like a true edge. Like that's what he is. Like, it's not like Jalen Walker's a little more like Micah in terms of like you kind of was like more of a college linebacker and like you're kind of more projecting him to play edge. And obviously Micah's a special athlete. Looks like Abdul Carter in a lot of ways, the way they play, but Green is really impressive this week, and tape's really good. And again, it's the stigma of the small school guy, getting there. And it's like, can he figure it out?
Am I crazy? And I just looked up the measurables.
I have a weird comp for Mike Green, so I'm curious.
Okay, I was going to ask you, does he remind you at all of Bryce Huff?
Yeah, but you know what he reminds me of as well? No, Jessica, he looks a lot like Jermaine. The way he's like stature.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the same, like they have literally the exact same equipment on, same number, like same build in terms of like height, weight, measurables. He plays a little more like Bryce Huff than Jermaine, but like he has the body type Jermaine does, where it's like 6'2", 240, somewhere in that 250 range. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of a combo of those two guys, which is a 10 sack a year guy. So you'll take that all day long.
I was going to say, if they walk to the podium, the New York Jets walk to the podium, the 7th pick, and they say Mike Green's name, how's Will feel?
I'm fine with it. I think they need edge help. Like I think they have Will McDonald's a 10 sack a year guy, but I think you'd prefer to have him play 45% of the reps, not 65. And I hope Jermaine's every bit the player he was 2 years ago. But Achilles. You just the first year back, I have no idea what he's going to be. He'll be fine long term, I'm sure, but first year back, it's always a struggle. So outside of that, they have nobody at edge now. You went
from having too much to too little.
I've made no bones about it. I'd rather than take a guy like Jalen Walker just because I think he can play different positions, and I think CJ Mosley's probably going to be gone. Quincy Williams got a year left. Sherwood's a free agent. You could convince me you could just play Jalen Walker at linebacker and be like, hey, him and Quincy are just going to kill people for a year, and like then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we want to make him an edge, and like he's got the body type, he could play all three down. So if you told me it's one of those two guys, in a bigger conversation, but for the Jets, and I think this is for the Patriots, there's like a group of 4 or 5 guys, and it's like outside of that, you'd be like, ugh. Like,
right.
What are you doing for the Jets? I think it's one of the couple edge guys I mentioned. It's Mason Graham. It's Tet. it's Will Johnson. It's like whoever's there, and you take the best guy on your board. Same thing with the Patriots. It's like it's Hunter and Mason Graham, and if you feel like any of those guys are tackles, which I don't personally, but if you do, or it'll be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. These teams, like what happens in the top three is gonna. I know it's a stupid comment, but like whatever happens in the top three is gonna drastically change 4, 5, 6, 7. And of course, Liam Cohen, by the way, I meant to ask you this before we get into these positions. Did you pull a Gerard Mayo this morning or last night? So what are you expecting in the draft? He's like, we're going to play good defense, but all it's about is scoring points. And they were like, asked him who he wants to take. It's like, dude, just shut up.
Yeah. He's it's not been a great week for him.
No, it's more also that like the spot they're in,
right.
Do we see Mason Graham or I don't know, maybe Travis Hunter like fall because if the Jags don't go defense and they go offense and the Patriots go with, I don't know, maybe the Patriots go offensive line or something unforeseen. All of a sudden it's like, well, what if Abdul Carter and or Travis Hunter's available at 6 now? Or one of these quarterbacks is falling. Like it's a weird pivot point in the draft that early.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. You're mentioning sort of the cluster of players that, if you're a Patriots or Jets or one of those teams, it's like I keep hearing a lot about trading back, and I'm gonna just put this out there. If I'm the Patriots, I'm not trading. If I'm trading back, I'm not trading too far back. Like from 4 to 6, from 4 to 7. I don't know that they would trade with the Jets.
Really getting in a non-quarterback pick there,
right? Exactly. It's like, get more picks, and I understand the idea of like, need some more dart throws because your roster stinks. But don't go so far back that all of a sudden you miss out on the A- player, the B+ player, and you end up with the B player or the B- player. And yeah, he's a good player for 8 years or whatever, but like he's not someone that can change who you are and change the ceiling of what your team is. They're desperate for blue chippers. I'll say it again. Christian Gonzalez, I guess we can call him a blue chipper now, right? Like he's 20 games into his career because he basically missed most of his rookie season, but like he is legit. Drake May has a chance to be a blue chip player, right? Absolutely. Christian Barmore was trending to be a blue chip player. And now people are talking about it like, well, their defensive line, if they get this and they do this and they have Barmore back, like the big question is if, and I have no inside information on Christian Barmore and what he's tracking for health-wise. But this is what we know. He had blood clots. He came back. He had a recurrence. That's scary. His life is more important than football. I don't know how anyone can sit here and predict that Christian Barmore is going to be back or that you can count on him definitively going forward based on the condition. Everybody hopes that's the case. He loves football. I want to see him out there. Everybody wants to see him out there. The guy, that's what he loves to do. You want him out there. But I don't know. So you can't tell me definitively that's what it is. And so, okay, well then how far do you go back? Because there aren't many blue chippers in the draft. And sometimes it's just like, dude, don't be stupid. Just take the best goddamn player and move on. You'll figure it out later. Let's hear from PrizePicks because they are doing something awesome this week, which they've done multiple times during the course of the season. But as we get closer to the big game, and it rhymes with duper pole. Yeah, see what I'm saying there? They're giving you a free square. Patrick Mahomes throws for more than a half a yard in the duper bowl, and you win 1 square. So all you got to do is match it with one other guy. That's unbelievable. He's like, it's going to happen, okay? So, I don't know. You look at the game and you say, Saquon Barkley is going to rush for more than 112 and a half yards, or Jalen Hurts is going to pass for more than 215 and a half yards. How about Travis Kelce? Coming off that, nonsensical game. They were barely a factor. 62 and a half receiving yards. Xavier Worthy has definitely come on. 56 and a half receiving yards. I got to just maybe pair the 1 square of Mahomes with another, and there you go. You have an opportunity to win and win big. Just download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 off after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. A $50 bonus after you play your first $5 lineup, and you don't have to win. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's move on to positional groups. And I'm telling you, we'll just go down the order. Although I think, I don't know, maybe, well, we'll get to it. Let's start at quarterback. and you talked about this is not, Jim Nagy said it, like there were 6 guys last year in the first 12. This isn't that.
No.
You could clearly make the argument that there should only be 1 first-round quarterback. There'll be at least 2, but there should only be 1. None of those guys were at the Senior Bowl. I was really looking for Jackson Dart to elevate. I thought he had a chance to be the third of the quarterbacks, and I'm talking Cam Ward, then Shedeur Sanders, and then who's the next guy? Yep. I didn't think he was awesome this week. Not bad, just not great.
Yeah, quickly, because we're gonna have to we're gonna go through these quicker. But where is this? It feels like the hype train around Dart yesterday took I'm like exponential leap to the point where like, hey, maybe he goes in the top. Like my mentions are like the Jets should need to take him at 7. Is he going to go in the top 10? Does New Orleans take him? Like he's definitely a round 1 process. I guess I'm confused because I don't think he hurt himself this week, but I also don't think until day 3 he like stood out as like 100%. He fumbled 5 snaps on Tuesday.
He literally cannot and look, this is part of the transition, right? Where his offense was run out of gun. But how many times did he and Milroe did the ball end up on the ground because they can't take center snaps? And like, look, I guess it's an acquired skill, but they've had several weeks to prepare to deal with under center stuff, and just it wasn't great. Like you said, I don't think he hurt himself, but he did nothing to cement himself as the number 3 quarterback in this draft, nor did he do anything to say that he's a first-round pick. I mean, look, these guys always get overdrafted. We do this every year, but to me, he's like a 3rd or 4th round guy, and that's beyond the quarterback boost that you normally get. That's beyond the Bo Nix. Maybe should be late 1st or early 2nd, going 12th. Even
fair. I didn't think Nix was great last year either, and everyone thought he was great. Maybe I just suck at evaluating quarterbacks. I don't know. If you told me someone trades in the back half, the last couple picks around 1, and does the stash, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the team that makes the most sense for. Maybe it's. I use the New Orleans example, but one of those teams that like. Even the Jets, maybe even like they're like, hey, we're going to trade up. We're going to trade up to 31 from if Rodgers is definitely coming back. We're going to trade up to 31 from 42, and we're going to do the Jordan Love thing, and like he's going to sit for sure. Like you could talk me into that. I think there's a couple of like, I think that's always a smart thing. I think for teams to buy that 5th-year option, and again, I understand the concept of it. I just think he's a round 2 to 4 guy, depending on your appetite for who he is, and. He's fine. He's a good player. He probably could be a starter in the league. But to me, he gives me a lot more Geno Smith when he came out with the Jets vibes, where like, if the situation's good, yeah, you could be a successful player for sure. But if it's not, he's not overcoming it on his own. And
no.
I don't know. There's a little immaturity there, it feels like too, which I'm a little.
I'll give you what sort of bothered isn't the right word, but something that I noticed this week, and I'm going to have to go back now and look at some of his tape. Just to see if what I saw kind of is confirmed on tape. He doesn't seem to want to throw guys open. It's like if it's not
got to ram a square peg through a round hole.
Yeah, I don't. Look, too many of these quarterbacks, like because of the offenses they run, then we come in. That's not something that they're comfortable with. And as we know in this league, the windows are a lot tighter, and you have to like if that guy's got like a half a step, quarter of a step. That's open in the league, and I don't know that he's willing or ready to do that. So I'm just going to say, as we do all that, I thought Tyler Shuck actually was the best quarterback.
Me too.
And Tyler Shuck's a 7th-year senior. He went to 3 different colleges. He finished at Louisville. He's 25 years old, but he's got a live arm. He's obviously got a lot of experience. He's had some injury issues.
Body's made of glass, and he's 30 years old. But other than that,
yeah. So but I think that sort of tells you, like, to me, I'm not even talking about Milroe.
He is the best arm, no, for sure. I mean,
oh yeah. And like you saw some of the off-platform stuff they do. I thought he helped himself, but
for sure.
We're talking about a day 3 guy. Like that's
that. I think I'm at the point now with quarterbacks where I either want them to be like 20 years old, basically barely have played at all. The Anthony Richardson, he's not the good example for it, but
right. I know what you mean.
Richardson type where it's like, I'm just betting on a zillion traits and like almost the unpredictability of what it could be, and you hope that you hit. Or it's like this guy started 75 games and like this is who they are. Like this is what it is. Like I just think that at this point, like you almost kind of have to go with full, like I'm going to teach you how to play quarterback. And like you're basically going to use all the stuff that you're going to get in offense for 2 years. You're going to sit for a year, maybe even 2, and like you're not playing. So like I'm going to literally mold you into the quarterback I want. Or like, hey, this is who you are, and you're probably not going to get that much better. Maybe it's the Bo Nix 10% better, but like I think I can work with that. You know, it's like I'm the Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, like that type of, because I don't know, like it's Dart's like the classic case of like played a lot of football, but not quite as much maybe as those guys. But you're kind of still like, ooh, there's like this upside there, and you start to get yourself enamored with it. I thought all the quarterbacks had moments that were nice this week, but also had moments that were like, you saw the limitations. Like Milroe his tiny hands, he can't go under center, and anything under 15 yards, he throws as hard as he possibly can.
Yeah.
He had the nicest throw the entire week.
He did.
On a corner route that I was like, wow, that's the nicest, I think the best throw I've ever seen you make. And it's like, wow, this guy's an elite athlete and he's a high character guy, and you want to bet on that. Or like Riley Leonard doesn't have a huge arm, but like is obviously like tier 1, like leadership, mentality guy, and is a great runner of the football, and like is accurate, got way better accuracy wise. So you want to bet on, he's a great kid. You want to bet on him. And like Gabriel, the same thing. I mean, you must have said it 12 times to each other this week. Yeah. And we can move off the quarterbacks, but if Dylan Gabriel is 6'4", be a number 1 pick in the draft. The key is so accurate. The arm's way better than I thought in person. Yep. He moves well. He had one really bad interception, but other than that, like generally he's a good athlete, high character, like everything you want in a quarterback. I would bet you $100 he's a Dolphin in round 6. Like he has to, and like he should be. Like that'd be
a good landing spot for him.
Be a great landing spot. Like, hey, left quarterback, timing, offense, all this stuff, like kind of mitigate your height, but he's barely 5'10", and he can't see. Like I'm not trying to be a dick and like a height.
Dude, it's fair. It's like yes, we said it a million times. You and I were like, man, if he only, but he's not. And it's like
he was so good. Like he made a throw, Mike. I think it was either a corner route or it was like a deep 18-yard out, and it was safety and corner trying to both come down, and like I was like, whoa, that's like a really nice leveled throw. Like I didn't know that was in his bag. Like, but it's just he's tiny. Like he just is.
Struggled a little bit with the wind on Thursday. It was a little breezier on Thursday. So it's like that's just the thing. Let's move to running back. Who you got? Who stood out to you?
A bunch of guys, but I'll stick with one because we want to go quickly here. I debated between 2 guys, and I'll only just go with. I debated between Trevor Etienne and RJ Harvey. I'll go RJ Harvey. His missed tackle rate in college was like obscene. Like he's extremely productive. He's built like Doug Martin, if you remember him, like 5'9", 5'9.5". Ray Rice, Doug Martin build, like shorter, 220, like really thick lower body, like makes guys miss. He was really good in pass pro, caught the ball well. I thought he was really impressive, in a guy that on day 3 probably you're looking at maybe, I don't know, around 4 or 5 range. This class is really good at running back. So like maybe it's not till later, but I'm trying to think of maybe it's not the James Blunt route, like that, like those guys that were those Patriot teams, like where Brady always had the guys, like he's going to catch 40 balls a year. You can run him between the tackles if you need to. Really good in pass pro, dependable, make a guy miss, James White type. I said James Blunt. But like
we knew what you meant.
Yeah,
you mixed 2 guys.
Yeah, but it's like he was just really impressive. And again, Trevor Etienne, the one thing about him is I was a little disappointed. I felt like all year with him, I just didn't feel like he was like quite as good as I wanted him to be. And I thought he was really good this week. So I was happy for him because he's a guy that, again, big name, Georgia, like the whole thing. And he actually looked like the guy I was kind of hoping for the last 2 years.
Yeah, his footwork, he's very smooth and explosive, and it's kind of an easy explosion. I'm going to give you one, and I sort of did this with a Patriots bent because they haven't had this guy in a little while. and it's LaQuinn Allen, the running back from Syracuse, 6 feet.
That would have been my other guy. He had awesome.
207 pounds. And I say this about why he might fit in this offense in the Josh McDaniels system is really good catcher of the football, like easy, like he looks like a wide receiver catching the football. It's very natural to him. And the Pats have not had their third down backs. Antonio Gibson barely did it this year. 2 years ago, it was Ezekiel Elliott became their third down back. Essentially, they've missed that guy, and it's been a part of Josh's offense for a long time. Let's talk about maybe someone in free agency like Amir Abdullah, who we coached in Vegas. But like if they wanted to go the younger route, to me, the Quinn Allen makes a lot of sense. Let's go to wide receiver. It's again, we talk about quarterback. This is not the wide receiver class where it's the Malik Neighbors, the Jamar Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, Marvin Harrison Jr. This is not that. These are. I don't think is there a first round wide receiver
that was there today?
No, not down at the Senior Bowl. I'm just saying in general.
Oh, Ted and Emeka.
Oh, Ted, right? Ted, and then it'd be Hunter if Hunter's a receiver. I'll go first here. And again, no one really blew me away. Jalen Noel, the little slot guy from Iowa State. He's not even the bigger name. Jaden Higgins is the bigger named. But I thought Jalen Noel, he's so damn quick. I think he's a really good route runner. I thought he showed good balance, like good footwork. And to me, one of the interesting things about him, and I immediately after Wednesday's practice, I went back and called some of his stuff up from the season because I want to, again, to confirm what my eyes are telling me. He catches and turns upfield like it's one motion. And that's, you see the yard after catch potential. And again, this is maybe more from a Patriot bent or someone who uses the smaller slot, which has kind of gone out of favor recently. But he's someone I could see he's sort of that little pinball machine in the slot catching 75, 85 passes a year in the right system. Again, physically he's under 5'10", he's not a big kid, but a little bit more thickness to him than say someone like Pop Douglas has for the Patriots.
I'll go Jack Besh. Obviously the story's incredible and horrible at the same time.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, but
just for people who don't know, his brother, who played at Princeton, was one of the victims in New Orleans when the terrorist ran through with the truck. So pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's horrible, obviously. And then he is. I'm not saying he's Puka Nacua, but there's a lot of similarities.
There are some similarities.
His bigger body, long arms, thicker receiver. Play inside and outside, good hands, reckless abandon with the football, and faster than you realize. But they're not going to run. Jack will probably run. I don't know if I had to guess. Eye test wise, I run 4.58, something like that, which is fine. And I think he's 230 or whatever it is. He's a big dude, but inside he ran some routes in the slot. He ran some routes outside. I thought he was just everywhere, and I don't know. I personally think he's a guy that's a day 2 pick, and I think he's probably earlier on day 2 than people want to realize. And again, I just think there's the toughness, loves ball, loves contact. He's just a guy that he comes in and his ceiling's probably a 2, right? I don't think he's ever going to be a 1, but from a Jets, it's not the same size, but Jericho Cotchery is this guy inside, outside, 75 catches, 800 yards, and 6 touchdowns a year, and tough as nails, third down, you're going with the football that. Just maybe Puka's obviously a special player, and he's obviously in a great system for it. But Besh blocks really well. There's just everything about it is he's not bad at anything. There's no weakness to me. I don't know if his strengths are as high, but
yeah, I think. So I was talking to a scout who was look, you look at him, and at the very least, his rookie year, he's coming in, and he's a 4 for you. He's the number 4, but there's more there. And if he's in the right system, particularly as you mentioned, sort of the West Coast offense and maybe being a power slot in the West Coast offense, that could he be a 3 or a 2 in the right situation? Could some of the things that you're talking about with Puka, the physicality and just sort of he'll run through you, he'll block you until you're on your ass, and he'll go find the next guy after he knocks that one guy over. I could totally see that happening. I hope for his sake that he runs in the low 4.5s. I think that would make a huge difference, because one thing I did notice
he
about
doesn't
him,
run personally.
yeah, one of the things I did notice about him is that he got over the top of some people. Like he looked a little faster than maybe he might time. The only thing
I want to just mention, you mentioned the small guys, Tez Walker from Oregon. Look, he's made for these type of events. One-on-ones are his thing. He was really awesome, and he's a really fun player. He's 156 pounds, and he's not really going to get much bigger. No. Maybe he gets to 160. So people are going to fall in love with him. I'm sure you're going to get people, and you mentioned, they got to draft. Just a lot of Tutu Atwell. Maybe he's more Tank Dell, and maybe he can be a little bit more of like a factor in different things. But it's not Tank's fault. But it's back-to-back years now where, while he's productive, I mean, he gets really badly injured a lot because he's 150 pounds. And it's the one issue with a lot of these guys. It's not to be whatever. It's part of why most people.
No, it's fat, because you see it, and then you see what he did in college, and you're like, oh, he could do this in the pros. And it's like, it's just different, man. It's just going to be different. So you got the big game coming up. Tickets are outrageous for that. But if you want to find tickets, and you want to find the best tickets, and you want to find the lowest price tickets, just use the Gametime app. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Look, me personally, I'm not paying for a Super Bowl ticket. And in fact, I'm not going to the Super Bowl, which I don't like New Orleans, so that's fine. But we got NBA, we got NHL, and we're starting to get now. We're in the second half of that year, sort of. Now things start to get a little more interesting. Now you start paying attention to playoff positioning. You start looking at games on the schedule, saying, "Ooh, can they get this? Can you get that?" And this is the time, man. This is the time for me where I'm going to use the app. I'm going to get tickets. I'm going to know where I'm sitting. They have the view, so you can see where you're sitting, so you realize you're not behind a pole, or you're so far away that you need binoculars to see. On-time ticket delivery, lowest price guaranteed. They got the event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well, which is, in this era, that's really nice. So just download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's move to my second favorite position in the draft, and that is tight end. So there are a lot of good ones. The two best ones weren't there. Warren from Penn State, who is now getting top 10 buzz, and I think that's fair. I think he's kind of nasty. Colston Loveland from Michigan, who's going to be a first-round pick. And there are a couple guys in Mobile, Mason Taylor, Arroyo from Miami, who are starting to get that buzz as well as maybe potential late first round, early second round guys. I think it's fair. I think both warranted it. But I'm going to give you I've been yapping. You go first, and then I'll give you my guy.
I have a feeling I'm going to so we're doing one standout, and this is going to be a guy that's probably going to go in the 6th round. Jackson Hawes is a absolute dog. Any team needs a Jackson Hawes. He's probably going to have a similar role to almost a Juszczyk Ricard type, where like almost a fullback could play Y, could play F, but like really it's just kind of like an extra offensive lineman that can catch. Someone that's in the scouting community told me he's the best run blocker in the class of anybody. I'm talking O-line or tight end, and it doesn't matter. And got good hands. He's just your classic like 6'4", 260, like blocking tight end that like's going to catch 10 to 15 balls a year, maybe 30 in the right system. Maybe it's 7. But like that dude is an absolute competitive. Like there's a million guys that we could talk about, and this tight end class is really good, as you mentioned. I will say Tyler Warren, I think if he tests, I think buzz will cool off more into being like a guy in the teens to 20s, just because he's a better football player than he is tester. Like Brock Bowers fell to whatever 15 or whatever it was, and like Bowers was the best player in the SEC for like 3 years. And just because he took one stupid picture with Gronk, everyone assumed he was a bad player. Hawes, the reason I want to shout him out is just because, again, he's a guy that no one's going to talk about going up to the draft. He'll be a day 3 pick, late day 3, and no one's going to talk about him during camp. But like, you're going to get to the end of the year and be like, this guy was PFF grade was 88, and he had 17 pancakes in that Week 12 game against the Jaguars, and you're like, what's going on here? And like, their run game's so much better. What changed? Like, he changed. So,
God bless.
I would say like, he's just a guy that I thought showed he could catch this week, which was important to me. But I'm not drafting him to catch. I'm drafting him to be like, hey, we want that option to throw you the ball and be, maybe he goes to the Bears or goes to, a Ben Johnson type that uses, multiple tight ends and does these different things. But I'll tell you what, whoever drafts him, their running game is going to be significantly better next year.
My guy, Nebraska's Thomas Fedone. Mixed. I talked to different guys, and they're like, "Look, he's making the league. He's a good player. He's making the league." Now, whether he is a 4th round pick or a 7th round pick depends on who you talk to. Nebraska's offense didn't star him, and then quite frankly, Nebraska's offense wasn't very good. At least that's I only saw one game of them on tape, but in talking to people, it's like even with Raiola as quarterback, it wasn't what it needed to be. Or it wasn't what it's going to be as the kid develops. Yeah. This kid, I described him on Tuesday as the way he runs, it looks like he's getting electrical shocks in each leg at different times. It's an odd running style, but he runs well and he catches the ball really well, but hands away from the body at all times. Made a couple really nice contested catches, competitive in the blocking realm. He's a former, I actually read today, it was a 5-star. I had read earlier he was a 4-star. And he had torn ACLs his freshman year and then his redshirt freshman year. But he was on the John Mackey watch list for best tight end going into the season. Again, like I said, their offense wasn't awesome. So he caught 35 passes. But I thought he showed you who he is. And I just think he's going to be a useful player for somebody. So again, I'm not talking about the high-end guy, just kind of fell in love with the player, the effort, the attitude, and I really like the hands that he showed. Let's go to offensive line, which unfortunately for those guys, the defensive line group was the best group, and when you do one-on-ones, it is definitely slanted for the defensive line in the defensive line's favor. Who did you have as the one guy that sort of jumped out to you? Oh, you're on mute.
What a disastrous 2 minutes. Trey Zabel, North Dakota State. Not sure he lost a rep all week. And if he did, it was barely. Guard, center, could argue he was a tackle by trade and moves like a tackle. Do I think he'll be a tackle long term? I think there's a chance he could play right tackle. I think we've seen guys with short arms figure it out. A tackle, if you can move the way he moves. Does he look like Tyron Smith? No, he does not look like a guy sculpted in a museum. Kind of looks the opposite. And you kind of almost underrate it. You're like, oh, all right, this guy versus speed, is he going to be able to figure it out? And like, he moves really well. And I think he was named Offensive Lineman of the Week. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing, he's going to go in the top 50, in my opinion. And maybe it gets higher than that because it's offensive line and like anyone could use it. If I'm the Patriots sitting there in 30, whatever they have, 35, 36.
Yeah, some 30, 38.
36. I'm seriously contemplating saying, is he our future center when David Andrews hangs it up? Is he just going to plug and play? He'll be our starting center for the next decade. Like I don't know that he gets past 50. And frankly, like I said, if I'm the Patriots or one of these teams, like I want to try to rebuild my offensive line in one off season. I don't know, you sign 2 guys, you draft him and maybe one other guy, and it's like, all right, now we're on to something. He just was really impressive to me. I thought his lateral quickness was good, tough as nails. And North Dakota State, these guys come in the league and they're always able to play right away.
Yeah, I love them. I could easily make that my answer. I think there is an outside shot that he ends up at the back end of the first round. You could see like a good team He's like, oh, you're good. We don't have these pressing needs. And like, oh, but we could use, like, would it shock you if, say, Kansas City lost Trey Smith in free agency and they just said, you know what, guy, we plug him right in and let's just keep going. Like that, it wouldn't shock me. But I'm going to go Josh Connerly, who we mentioned earlier, who got run over by Mike Green. But I don't want to say that I thought it was a good level performance from him this week. Like, not outstanding, didn't like jump off, but also like you watched him and really competitive. And, aside from that one rep, and as you mentioned, the very next rep that he had with Green, he won the rep. So it was like, that's what you want to see.
Like 2 reps. That's it. I'll just say, like, the one thing this is why you put stock in the one-on-ones, but you also have with a grain of salt. You want to see a guys have moved. What's their bag look like? How do they adjust? How are they able to, like, kind of post as an offensive lineman, as a defensive lineman? Can they do different things? Is it, are they really 1/8? Whatever. As good as Mike Green's rep was, kind of took himself out of the play. Shamar Stewart did the same thing in a real game. Like, cool, you ran the guy over, you ran yourself into the ground, and if I'm an offensive lineman, you can run me over all day if you're not going to hit my quarterback. You know what I mean? So, like, I just always wish everyone can, like, understand that.
You know better than anybody. It's now the social media world where that gets clipped and it gets replayed 2 million times. And, the guy who first posted it is like doing a dance because, his thing went viral. There's more to it than that, clearly. And I just thought the Connerly was good, solid all week. And the one thing in talking to people this week about him, because I came in kind of interested in him, as a possible, like, is he a left tackle? Like, is he, as some people suggest, does he belong inside? And a lot of people told me they still feel like he's growing into his body a little bit. And so when you have these really good feet, but maybe you're still 10 pounds away from where you're going to max out and be able to play and still have those feet, then yeah, he can be a tackle and he can be a left tackle. So that's, to me, again, with some of the needs. Well, a lot of teams have needs in the offensive line, but obviously with the Patriots, as I cover them on a daily basis, would be someone that I think they should be interested in, or at least exploring more, finding out, can this guy and what we're going to do, can he be a tackle for us going forward? So yeah. I thought he had a nice week. Let's go. As we did defensive line, we did the front seven. Talk to me about linebacker. Who stood out to you at linebacker?
I don't know if Jack Kaiser is going to be able to play in the league. I don't know. Like, I don't know what his ceiling is in the NFL. It's probably as a core teamer, and then, maybe he figures it out. He was really good in coverage all week. Like, made plays on the football. I think he had 2 interceptions during practice, which there's just not.
He moves kind of like a safety.
He does move like a safety. He's played a ton of football. He made some plays in the playoffs that were unbelievable. I mean, the play against Penn State on that 3rd down when they needed a stop, or 4th down, whatever that was. And it was like, covers ground better than you'd expect. Again, I don't know what his NFL ceiling is, but I thought he had a really nice week, and he confirmed for me that, like, he can move at least well enough to be a guy that gets drafted. Again, I don't know what that means, but I liked him. I guess that's the best way I get. Like, I just thought he had a really nice week in coverage, especially, which is the thing you expect him to be struggling the most. He is every bit the Notre Dame hardworking coach's son, smart.
Yeah.
Like, that's who he is, but actually he's more than that. And I was actually pretty impressed with the way he moved in coverage.
I was too. And I thought he was one of the, one of the sort of the alphas. And there are some big personalities at linebacker.
You can tell he is a Marcus Freeman guy.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So he was my choice as well. I will give a shout out to Shamar James, Florida linebacker, who's about the same size as Kaiser. But I thought there was a team period on Wednesday that was extensive. It was 25 plays, and it was like real physical, and like there was edge from both sides. Oh, yeah. And I thought he was prominently involved in several run stops, and moved well in coverage. And he's an interesting guy to me. He's definitely I think he's a good football player. Let's go to corner. So I had a hard time with this one. I like the kid from Ole Miss. He hurt the ankle. He left. I've heard some people tell me he's a first-round pick. That's kind of cheating. Am I going to take a guy in the first round as one of my selections? But I guess I was drawn to Maxwell Hairston, who's 179 pounds, which concerns me a little bit, but a ball hawk in college. And I thought he showed some good ball skills this week. Again, I don't know how you felt. I didn't feel like any cornerback was like awesome. Thomas from Florida State. Again, he's a first round guy, probably. He was probably the best of the bunch. But again, and I give him credit, by the way, because as some of these guys who were going in the first round tapped out because they thought they'd done enough, guy like Thomas stayed and was Thursday was super competitive on Thursday. Nolan, before he hurt the hamstring, was playing competitively on Thursday. I like those guys. That says something to me about who they are and their character, and just hey, I know I put stuff on tape. I know what I'm going to be, but I still want to do this. This is what I'm here for. Hairston tapped, but I liked what I saw before he tapped.
Yeah, I'll do safety and corner kind of combined. I'll do the two names here. Both guys are probably undersized. I would have said AZ Thomas, but I think he's easy. He's going to go in the first round.
Yeah, he's a 6'1" guy. He's 191 pounds, good ball skills.
Very long.
Confidence too, right? He never seemed like he panicked.
He walks around
and the cock of the walk.
Yeah.
Which is what you want your quarterbacks to be.
You want your corners to be. He's a lot more like Christian Gonzalez sauce body type, where a little more slender, longer corner that move. He's not maybe that level of good, but he moves a lot like a guy who, as a bigger corner, can play guys that are maybe the 5'10" guy, isn't going to be a problem. Upton Stout and Billy Bowman are both as corner and safety. Look,
Bowman was my choice at safety.
Yeah, so I will say this.
Speak for both of us here.
Upton Stout probably could play safety in the league, and could probably play corner. Might be more of a nickel guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Michael Carter on the Jets in terms of just really his feet and his tempo with which he plays. He's so patient. He's not that big. He's a small school guy. Probably is going to go in the 5th round, but he's probably going to start in the league for 8 years. You know what I mean? These nickel guys, this is what happens, and they don't go as high, and it's a little bit of a more niche position. But if you have a really good nickel, when the Jets had their defense humming 22 and 23, Michael Carter's a top 5 nickel, and he was hurt all year this year, and they were the 15th best defense. You know what I mean? It does make a huge difference. And Kenny Moore and what's his name up in Buffalo? That's literally escaping my head.
Ron Johnson.
Yeah, when these guys are playing, these defenses are really hard to beat because they're that good. I thought Upton Stout was really good this week. He's physical. He'll have no problem hitting you too. And then Billy Bowman, his 23 tape's better than the 24 tape for sure. He's a little over aggressive at times for sure. He talks about as good a trash as I've heard kind of mobile since I've been going down for the last 4 years. I will leave out the explicatives of what he said, but in a basically walkthrough period, install period, someone, I'm not going to say who it was, ran a route and he covered him well and the whole thing. He basically told him that he was extremely soft, a loser, couldn't get open, and that he runs these practices. And I was that's kind of, if you're going to be an undersized safety that's going to stick your face in there and hit people and be confident like that, you got to talk it and walk. Those are that's what you got to do. And he, Oklahoma guy, played a ton of football. Yeah. I don't know. To me, again, probably a guy that goes on day 3 more than day 2 at this point, based on the way the 24 tape was. But a guy, again, if you walked out of the draft with, I don't know, Upton Stout in round 6 and Billy Bowman in round 5, that might be your 2 starting safeties for the next 8 years. And you'll be okay. Maybe they're not going to be the ceiling of, I don't know, some of these other guys, but Billy Bowman will hit you and he'll let you know about it. And I always get, like I said, we've talked about it a million times. I get impressed by the guys that go down there. He's coming off a rougher 24. Oklahoma as a whole just was terrible this year. And he could have kind of been hey, continued the downward trend, and it came in and had a really good week. Yeah. And so I was impressed.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I love your point about his physicality too. I don't know what, he's not even 5'10". He's under 200 pounds.
He's not Buda Baker, but that way where like I'm undersized, but like I will let you know.
Yes,
I'm here.
He stuck his nose in on some people during the course of the week. We're like, maybe that was a little too aggressive for practice, but like I kind of like it. So like
in an era where we're getting softer and softer.
Yeah,
guys are like, nope.
I'm an old school football player. He's a fun one for me. Quickly before we go, I did want to make a note. I wrote this in Boston Sports Journal Saturday. Again, we're taping this Saturday. It's now 12 o'clock. Patriots are retaining Ben McAdoo on Mike Vrabel's staff, but Ben McAdoo will be coaching on the defensive side of the ball, a position yet to be determined, which is interesting because if you look at Ben McAdoo's history, he has never coached in professional football on the defensive side of the ball. And he's been in the league, I think, since 2000. So an interesting little look. And we see this from time to time where they'll take a offensive guy, put him on defense and like, well, how would you guys think? And sort of like build that out through the defense. But I did find that very interesting. And quickly too, I'll just say I had some concerns about how they put together this offensive staff and wondering where the Josh guys were on the staff, and the staff is still not complete yet. And after I did a radio interview on Friday on WEEI, I got a couple texts and a phone call and like had some conversations where I don't want to say they alleviated my concerns about how the offensive staff has been put together, but they certainly lessened my overall concern about it, so that I don't know. I guess my feeling is that Josh is a little bit more involved, and even though some of these guys are Vrabel guys, that
he's got some involvement in it.
Yeah. So take it for what it's worth. I think I don't know. It's just a little something there as I kind of look together how they put this group together. And I'd still like the wide receiver coach who's yet to be named. I'd still like him to be a direct tie to McDaniels, but at this point, I feel better about where they're at. What's up?
And Troy Brown?
Oh, I don't know if they want to go the Troy Brown route at wide receiver again. That didn't go so well for a few years. So, all right, that's going to put a wrap on this. We appreciate you guys tuning in. A lot of fun this week at the Senior Bowl. I'm sure we'll have some leftover thoughts again as we go along here over the next, as we get closer to draft season. We'll be back with you beginning of the week. And we'll have some fun, and we'll start getting ready for the big game down in New Orleans. He is Will Parkinson. I'm Mike Giardi. We will talk to you next week.